Hey guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a rundown on the key drama terminology that you need to know for your exam. I did AQA GCSE drama, so this really only applies to that because this definitely got me through just fine. But if you do a different exam board, maybe these will just give you a boost, and then if you need to know anything else, hopefully your teacher will fill those gaps in for you. First, I'm going to start with lighting. So first we have a spotlight, which I think everyone knows what a spotlight is, but if you're trying to explain the exact effect in an exam, you can say that it gives a hard-edged effect, and you can use different coloured filters to add the colour in front of the light, and obviously it illuminates and emphasises one exact character or a couple characters. Then we have parkan, which is a strong, harsh beam of light. This covers the entire stage, and it also gives another hard-edged effect. And then kind of the opposite of that is, well, at least in my class, everybody's favourite, which is Fresnel. So this is a general wash of colour, but it's much softer than parkan, so it can quite look like natural light if that's what you're going for. Then you have flood lighting, which is just usually the standard lighting. It's a general wash of colour over the whole entire stage, and it's usually best used with flat scenery. And then we have a gobbo or a gobo. There's many a debate of how you say that in my class, but basically it's just a stencil that you place over a lantern to project a certain image onto the stage. So for example, I did the Crucible, and what I always used to do is use a gobbo with a cross on it to project a cross onto the stage so that the cross shape was always there. And then coloured gel is just something that you can add in front of lanterns to throw splashes of colour onto the stage. When you're talking about lighting, you always want to talk about the intensity, so how bright it is, any layering, because that is quite an in-depth thing that you can talk about, and then also projection, which I'll get onto in a second. When talking about projection, you want to talk about where, so is it on the stage, is it on the backdrop, is it onto some scenery, exactly where you're going to put it, the material that you're projecting onto, so a gauze, a backdrop, or just like a blank screen. And then finally you want to talk about why you're doing that projection. So you do want to talk about why for everything, but specifically for projection you can talk about whether it's for ambience or like the setting, so for example just like some trees, whether it's symbolic like the cross, or whether it's for backstory or information, like you could project an old video onto the back of the screen. Next up we have staging. There's quite a few types of stages. So first of all we have the arena stage. This is just where there's the rectangular stage in the middle and the audience can sit on all four sides of that rectangle. Traverse is like a catwalk, so if you've seen the Railway Children, then this is just exactly what that is. Just a rectangle, audience sit on the two long ends of that rectangle. Theatre in the round is where there's a circular stage and the audience sit all around. End on stage is just a regular stage and the audience sit in front of it, and then proscenium arch is the same thing except there's a big arch dividing the audience and the stage. Promenade is where you walk around different sets, so rather than the actors coming to you, you go to the different actors. And then thrust is a T-shaped stage. With sound, you can get very, very specific, so always talk about whether there's going to be a fade in or out, the volume, echo, reverb, crescendos, diminuendos, things like that. And then talk about the type of sound that it is, so is it live, is it recorded, is it a voiceover, is it just from the wings, like off stage, all those kinds of things. And also you can talk about whether it's diegetic or non-diegetic sound. So diegetic sound is when it's something that the characters can hear, for example birds, or the sound of like a train, things like that, that the actual characters would be able to hear. Non-diegetic sound is things that the characters can't hear but the audience can. Like for example a jump scare sound, like the really harsh violin sound. Obviously the characters can't hear that if something scary happens, but we can. When you talk about music, you can talk about underscoring, which is just when the music plays beneath when the characters are talking, whether the music is in major or minor, depending on whether it's like a happy or sad mood. If you want to use microphones, you can hang microphones down from the ceiling, and that creates like this wall of sound that will amplify among the whole audience, and that will be quite unsettling if you want a creepy vibe from your audio. Or equally you could use surround sound, which is where there are like speakers in the audience, and that like amplifies the sound to where they're sitting so they can hear it really, really loud and clear, and it also echoes a lot and it's just very disorienting. And then finally you have contextual sound. So this is where, for example in the Crucible, you could have a McCarthyism speech playing just before the play starts to set the mood and set the historical context behind the play. When it comes to costumes, you can get extremely detailed. When you're talking about a specific play, you want to talk about the context and really get historical into what the clothes are. So again, for the Crucible, it's set in a Puritan village, and so a lot of the time I had to talk about cassocks, which are like clergy clothes, doublets, which are like the jackets they used to wear, buckled shoes, a wide brimmed hat. You should also talk about hair and makeup, but I think we all know like different types of hairstyles and different makeup types, so I won't get into that. But then you can also talk about really detailed things such as mud on a character's boots if they work on a farm. For my play, what we did a lot was talking about stains on the costumes of certain characters above their heart if they've sinned. If you want a character to kind of stand out, you could put them in a brighter colour, or if you're trying to show that they are very different but they're trying to fit in, you could do something that stands out but is very subtle, for example like a little bright coloured handkerchief. Or if you want to show a character's importance, you can put tap plates on the bottom of their shoes so that every time they walk it gives them like an air of importance because you can hear them coming from like a mile away. Puppetry is a funny one because I've never seen it in any of the past papers I ever did, but it's like on the exam board, so technically it could come up, but it's very strange, and it's often very difficult to fit puppetry into a play if it really doesn't seem like that could be there. But in case you do get the question, you should know all the different types of puppets, so hopefully this long list will give you some inspiration. First we have shadow puppets. They're just silhouettes that you place behind a gauze screen. I think we all know what they are, and you can usually use them to kind of give backstory or act something that was too difficult to act out in person. Rod puppets are the ones you control with a stick at the bottom of them, and I guess they could show like manipulation if you had the actors controlling them in plain sight. And then you have string puppets, which are like what they use in The Sound of Music with the goats. So that can usually be used if you want to do something that might injure an actor. For example, at the end of The Crucible, spoilers, John Proctor gets hanged. If you wanted to show that, you could use a puppet to hang John instead of the actual actor, obviously. And then we have hand-arm puppets or finger puppets, which are very self-explanatory. They're the ones that you just put on your arm and your hand acts as like the mouth. And those can also be used as manipulation as well, because if you show the actor actually controlling that character, it just symbolises that a bit better. And if you want to go even deeper into the puppetry, which you should if you want to get the top marks for the design question, you want to talk about the size, because normally if the puppet's very small, it's not that important. If it's very big, it's probably a more important character. Also material, so if you want the puppet to look very like worn and beaten, you can use Hessian, whereas if you wanted to look very royal and regal, you could use like silk. But then also the colour of that material can reflect the personality. And then finally, I just have a few finishing words which can be used to describe how you would act. So we have intonation. That's kind of the way you put emphasis on different parts of a word. So it's very commonly described as the difference between a statement and a question. For example, hello or hello. If your voice goes up at the end, it's normally a question, if that makes sense. So that's how you can use intonation. And then tone, it's just the way you speak. You can be an angry tone, an upset tone. Pitch, whether you're speaking high or low. Pace, how fast you're speaking. And then also proxemics. My friend is doing A-level drama and she just told me something about proxemics. It's different at A-level, I can't quite remember what it is. But at GCSE, you can say things like, I would have wide proxemics with character X, or the actor playing character X is even better, to show their distance relationship. But you can also talk about proxemics with the audience. So if you're very close to the audience, it might mean that the thing that you're talking about is more intimate. You want to keep it very like close between just you and the audience and none of the other actors on the stage. So that is all of the key GCSE drama terminology that I used when I was doing GCSE drama. I really hope this video helped. If you needed more terminology to use, or if you needed more descriptions or like how to use the exact words. If you have any questions about any of them, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And other than that, I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!